Good afternoon, America. Tonight, Senator Mitch McConnell says stimulus deal could take weeks, putting millions of people with expiring jobless aid in limbo. The temporary $600 weekly benefit expires next week, and Republicans are seeking a way to scale it back. With days to go before enhanced jobless benefits expire, the White House and Senate Republicans are struggling to design a way to scale back the programs without overwhelming state unemployment agencies and imperiling aid to more than 20 million Americans. The hang-up has led to abrupt delay in the introduction of the GOP's $1 trillion stimulus package. The White House and Democrats have said they want a deal by the end of the month, but Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell suggested Friday it could take several weeks to reach an agreement, a timeline that could leave many unemployed Americans severely exposed. Well, hopefully we can come together behind some package we can agree on in the next few weeks, McConnell said in an event in Ashland, Kentucky. Part of the hang-up stems from a push by administration officials and GOP lawmakers to cut but not completely eliminate the $600 weekly payment of enhanced federal unemployment benefits. The White House and GOP are not in agreement about how to do this, and talks remain highly contentious. They are hoping to release a proposal early next week. They said, "We realize that there are a lot of hard-working Americans because of the COVID still won't have jobs," Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin told reporters on Thursday. After convulsing in March and April when the pandemic shut down large parts of the United States, the economy showed signs of regaining its footing before sliding again in recent weeks. Numerous stimulus programs appear to be wearing off, and the space of layoffs has picked up again. Layoffs that many Americans thought would be temporary have dragged on and become permanent, particularly as new cases of the virus spike across the United States. This has put enormous pressures on state unemployment programs, which typically pay about 45% of a worker's prior wages. In March, Congress approved a $600 per week emergency bonus for every unemployed worker on top of that traditional payment, funneling hundreds of billions of dollars to newly jobless Americans as the novel coronavirus pandemic hit the country. That federal benefit, currently being received by more than 20 million people, is set to expire at the end of this month, and it comes at a time when federal eviction moratorium is also ending, a dynamic that could put enormous pressure on cash-strapped families. In practice, the jobless benefit lapse means that millions of workers are seeing their last enhanced benefit payment this week. In recent days, senior congressional Republican and Mnuchin have discussed replacing this universal federal bonus with one tied to workers' income before their job was lost. Instead of sending a $600 per week bonus to every unemployed person, under this plan, the federal government would provide a bonus amounting to about half of the existing state bonus. According to three senior GOP officials who spoke on the condition of anonymity to describe the fast-moving and internal deliberation, Mnuchin and President Trump have said publicly that they want to have the new payments replace roughly 70% of a worker's prior income. This would represent a combination of the nearly 50% state contribution of a worker's prior income plus an additional 25% kicked in by the federal government. Republican lawmakers have discussed extending the flat payment at about $200 per week instead of $600 to give the states time to adjust to the new formula and system. "We are going to extend it on the basis of wage replacement. It's approximately at 70% of wage replacement," Mnuchin told reporters on Thursday about the GOP's proposed plan. Other leading Republican lawmakers have argued for cutting the $600 per week bonus down to $200 per week. These people said, with one possibility being that this amount slowly phases out over time. These GOP officials have insisted that targeted wage replacement could prove too difficult for the states to implement. One Senate Republican's aide close to the negotiations who spoke on the conditions of anonymity to discuss the internal affairs says that the $200 flat payment represented the party's default position, with additional funding included to help states upgrade their unemployment system. The aide downplayed the odds of the GOP approving the more complicated replacement instead of the $200 per week extension. The issue has helped delay the introduction of the $1 trillion stimulus package by Senator Mitch McConnell, had planned to release earlier this week. Republicans debated last week changes to the unemployment insurance section of the proposal, according to the three people aware of the deliberations. A proposed legislation could now come on Monday, a lag that has prompted scorching criticism from congressional Democrats who have been demanding action for months. Congress has not passed any coronavirus relief legislation since approving 4 bipartisan bills in March and April that pumped around $3 trillion into the economy. McConnell wanted to wait and see how the unemployment benefits and other programs approved in the unprecedented stimulus effort played out before taking any additional actions. This weekend, millions of Americans will lose their unemployment insurance, will be at risk of being evicted from their homes, and could be laid off by state and local government. And there's only one reason, simply because the Republicans have been dithering for months while America's crisis deepens. That's what the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Charles Schumer, Democrat from New York, said in a joint statement on Friday. Now, if adopted, the new unemployment plan could complicate negotiations with congressional Democrats who favor extending the $600 weekly payment through January. And it's unclear if bulky state processing system would have the bandwidth to implement a complicated new formula on such short notice. We're dealing with the mechanical issues associated with that, Mnuchin told reporters about the wage replacement plan. The proposal would in key respects meet the conflicting political economic pressures bearing down on GOP and the White House as the unemployment deadline looms for millions of Americans months away from the election day. Senate Republicans and White House officials have been clear that they are now willing to extend the $600 per week benefit, which conservatives and many business organizations say encourages people to stay home rather than work. Many economists dispute this notion. Senior Republicans have also said they do not want additional federal unemployment benefits to go away entirely, acknowledging that benefits are politically popular, with a recent Washington Post ABC poll finding close to 60% of Americans supporting their extension. We need to make sure unemployment insurance is continued, McConnell said Friday. There is a controversy, however, over whether the provision in the previous measure that allowed people to make more money staying at home than going back to work was a good idea. That's not going to be our recommendation, but I do think basic unemployment insurance, fundamentally handled by the states but backed up by us, will be part of the GOP package. President Trump and Mnuchin have characterized their proposed solution, replacing 70% of a worker's prior income, as a reasonable middle ground. At his White House news briefing on Tuesday, President Trump expressed ambivalence about the benefit but said it would be partially extended. The employers are having a hard time getting employees back to work. I was against that originally decision, but they did that. It still worked out well because it gave people a lifeline, a real lifeline. Now, we're doing it again, the president said. They're thinking about doing 70% of the amount which would be the same, but doing it in a little bit smaller initial amounts. Congressmen, Democrats, and many economists say the current benefits should be extended in full to prevent a crucial source of economic stimulus from disappearing from an already wobbly economy to recover. Given the difficulty of searching a deal with Democrats before existing benefits expire, Mnuchin White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows on Thursday floated a standalone extension of unemployment provisions as part of a package with school funding and a type of lawsuit shield to make it harder for employees to sue their employers if they're become sick. A senior lawmakers in both parties oppose this piecemeal approach, but if they are unable to reach a deal, they might be forced to pass some type of standalone benefit extension next week. In March, lawmakers initially discussed increasing the unemployment benefits so they would represent 100% of the workers' prior income. Congress would ultimately abandon the idea in favor of a universal $600 bonus, in part because Labor Secretary Eugene Scalia warned that the nation's unemployment system could not handle the complexity of matching every individual's unemployment benefits to his or her prior income. According to Senator Ron Wyden, who led those negotiations. Scalia said it can't be done, Wyden said in an interview. We have not seen a single piece of paper describing how this would be administered without the downsides, Scalia pointed out months ago. Mnuchin acknowledges the technical challenges posed by converting from one system to another when addressing reporters on Thursday. He said the matter was being discussed with state unemployment offices. Let me just say, different states are in different places, Mnuchin said. Some states can implement this quickly, and some states will take time. Some experts are skeptical. State unemployment offices have been badly overwhelmed by unprecedented surge in claims, and there were another 1.4 million claims last week. Thousands of the newly jobless have struggled for months to obtain their benefits, and in some states have cramped outside unemployment offices overnight to be the first in line for help. The $600 per week bonus was chosen for its simplicity compared to targeted individual wage replacement. But it has proven tremendously difficult for states to implement as the nation's unemployment rate spiked to 15% before falling slightly to 11%. You're asking states to overhaul their insurance system in the middle of a pandemic, and they're already overloaded. What happens if states shift to a new system and they dump benefits and miss payments because of an error, said Ernie Tedeschi, who served as an economist in the Treasury Department under the Obama administration. It's too complicated. Andrew Stetner, a senior fellow of the Century Foundation, said states would do their best, but that many would struggle to pull off the change. The state unemployment insurance systems are like a house built on sticks, and you're throwing a match into them, he said. Stetner added it could prove difficult for the Labor Department to figure out how to target payments for every state to reflect 70% of wages for every American. White House and GOP officials have discussed a transition period that would give states time to figure out how to implement the reduction in benefits. Under this scenario, Republicans could first extend the benefits a lower amount, around $200 per week instead of $600, continuing the existing flat payment at a reduced level. Democrats would be sure to demand a higher figure. The $200 bonus combined with state benefits would amount to close to 70% of a typical worker's prior income. Although under the flat amount, there would be significant variation, as some would receive more than prior income and some would receive less. There is a way to extend this so the majority of people will get paid, and the 70% immediately, Mnuchin said. Meadows added that the $1,200 stimulus payments expected to be included in the package would help make up the difference for Americans for whom the extension does not amount to 70% of the prior income. At the end of a period that may last 2 months, one senior GOP congressional official said the automatic payment would go away and be replaced by a more targeted benefit. After 2 months, the states say, at least most states, I think pretty much all states, say they could convert to the feds doing a percentage of the state benefit, said the GOP official who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss internal deliberations. Do your state calculation and then the federal government, and we'll do 50% on that Whether the states will be able to pull off the change in a way that protects beneficiaries remains to be seen. But the National Association of State Workforce Agencies recently said that it would take 1 to 4 weeks for most states even to change the bonus amount from 600 to some other amount, according to Wyden's office. That's the latest news. Yours truly, Eddie G. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys stay safe, and goodbye.